So Will, you are the Senior Vice President of the First National Bank of Mertzen.
Yes, sir.
Why banking?
It's something I've always wanted to do. As far as my family goes, strong banking ties. One of my uncles, well, I work for him there at the First National Bank of Mertzen. He's the president and CEO there. And, both sides of my family have a lot of banking ties. And so growing up, you always hear that. And since about high school, that's something I've always been interested in. And when I went to college, went into economics and that sort of thing, and then interned with the Capital Farm Credit with the Farm Credit Association. And anyway, did that and liked it. So after graduation, went straight into banking.
So what do you like about being a banker?
One thing I really like is the interaction with people, all walks of life. I mean, you have guys that are asking, sometimes for several $1 million, and then you have the guy that needs a $500 loan just to get a new set of tires, whatever it might be. It's it's always interesting, and always interesting to see what means a lot to people in general.
Well, and I was going to ask this question later, but I'll segue into it now since you sort of led into this. But your wife was the person who nominated you for this award, and she's a former 20 under 40 recipient. But she said that as you were being recruited by First National Bank of Mertzen, you were told that they valued you because you could make both the largest and the smallest customer feel equally valued. Where do you think that comes from?
I think it comes from just growing up, especially where I did. I mean, you had all walks of life. It was real interesting, where I grew up because, small town, 200 people, and growing up on a ranch, you learn how to interact with everybody. From the guy looking to buy livestock all the way to, somebody that's just day working for you. So it teaches you to interact with a lot of different people.
In your wife's nomination, she also called First National Bank of Mertzen's team small but elite. Is that how you feel about it?
Well, I guess in a way you could look at it that way. We do have a small team. I think right now we have about 31 full-time employees, and I think there's a few interns or part-time kids from ASU that work for us, so maybe 35 total. But when I got the call to go to work for the bank, it was something I was really excited about because, where I grew up, that was a bank that a lot of the people, even 2 hours away would drive all the way to San Angelo or Mertzen just to bank with this group. So, when you hear that your whole life, it was kind of one of those opportunities you can't let pass up. So it was something I was excited about from the start.
Your nomination form also said that you have a real knack for networking and supporting your clientele. Why is that important to you both professionally and personally to engage your customers in those sort of ways?
Well, I think you learn more about them. If you can get down on a personal level with them, and it makes it a lot easier to learn what triggers them, what drives them, and on a business level too. So I think by doing that, and whether it's just taking them to lunch or stopping by their house if you see them out in the front yard, anything like that, I think learning a personal side of people gives you an edge in business.
You're an Aggie.
Yes.
As am I. You're a board member for the local chapter of A&M's alumni group, and in that role you've helped establish a $10,000 scholarship that's given away annually. So for the uninitiated, talk about why A&M holds such a special place for Aggies.
Well, that's easier said than done sometimes, but going to school there, once you walk on that campus, you interact with some of the people, everybody's friendly, it's a beautiful campus, it's huge. So it can be a little intimidating, but once you're on that campus, you can feel the uniqueness there.
How do you think your time at A&M has helped shape you?
Just going to school there and networking, just the people I met while I was there have opened plenty of doors for me. Whether it's getting phone calls to be associated with the board, or even calls from other parts of the state wanting to drive all the way to San Angelo to meet with me to do business now. the networking was great at school.
You're also a board member, an active volunteer, and a fundraiser for the West Texas Boys Ranch. What about the ranch's mission speaks to you?
I mean, just to be a part of that organization, as old as it is, once you go out there and see those kids and what they're doing out there, it's really neat to, because they're not just helping raise those boys, they're teaching them skills to, better themselves, and once they graduate high school, to go on and hopefully go to college or find a career path. And, once you see that, it kind of hits home, and, you think, wow, I had the opportunities to go to Texas A&M, so it makes you want to, step up and help those kids, because some of them, just need a little bit of a boost, and, they can maybe go and do things like I had. So it's a really neat organization. I've enjoyed that a lot.
You were raised on a ranching lifestyle. What do you think that does for a boy? How does it help grow a boy into a man?
You learn a work ethic. You're expected to do things, and that. And I always think, whether it's interacting with a dog or sheep, goats, cattle, just being around livestock or animals in general, I think is a big developmental part of developing in life. It teaches you how to interact with things other than people, and I think patience a lot of times is what you can learn with animals. So I think growing up on a ranch, that I learned a lot of those sort of things.
You and your brother have taken over your family's ranching operation, raising meat goats in Sheffield, which you explained to me was near Ira Ann. That ranch has been in your family for generations. Why was it important to you and to your brother to maintain that operation and keep it going?
You think about it, I mean, I'm trying to think how many generations, but let's say over the last 100 years, it's been kept together. And, firsthand, you see your grandfather and your dad and everybody doing it. So, just the drive to keep everything together and grow. I mean, it's something that's always resonated with me to be a big part of. So it's always been special for me, and, especially to work with your sibling and continue to do that. So it's been a great experience and a lot of fun, even though sometimes you get in a little argument here and there, but it's been great so far.
Is it a bit of an outlet for you? You're here in San Angelo working at a bank all week long, and then on the weekends maybe go down to Sheffield and work the goats?
Yeah, no, it definitely is a good way, change of pace, I guess to say, and get out in the open, and you're not sitting behind a desk, and so that's always nice to go out and just go look at what you're doing and see things as they grow, and something to be proud of.
I don't know that many people know that there are ranches now that sort of specialize in meat goats. Why meat goats as opposed to sheep or cattle or anything else?
Part of it's the country that we have and the terrain. I mean, cattle can't really travel. It's a little bit rougher terrain, and so you want things to travel to water and utilize the pasture a lot better. So that's one aspect of it, and then two, it's a little, I wouldn't say a specialized market, but you hit more of an ethnic market. And so it's something my grandfather had started a long time ago, and my dad had gotten into it also. And after he had passed away, then my grandfather went and asked if I'd be one of his partners right out of college. And so I worked with him for about 9 to 10 years. And then my brother, once he got out of school, he went to A&M, and once he graduated, he bought my grandfather out of that partnership, and so that's what got us going, and that's where we are today. So,
you're a new dad.
Yes.
How has that changed you and maybe some of your perspectives and priorities?
Oh man, if you ever thought you had free time, think twice now, because you'd rather be at home, spending time with your daughter or your son, and you don't want to miss those moments where, whether it's just rolling over or, trying to crawl, it just makes you slow down a little bit and, be a little bit more committed to that, and that's been really awesome so far.
As I mentioned, your wife, Laura Coleman Slaughter, who is a former 20 under 40 honoree. In her nomination form, she wrote that she married you because you are the best person she has ever met. How does hearing that make you feel?
Wow, that's pretty. I don't know how many times I've ever heard that. It might be the only time, but anyway, that's pretty special when you hear somebody say that. So it means a lot.
Tell me about a leader who has influenced or impacted you.
I guess where it all started was really at home with my parents. I mean, Dad was involved on the local level, politics, school board, other boards, on the local level, and my mom was involved in, everything you can imagine in school, with the school and PTA, that sort of thing. So, I mean, you watch them do that, and then, from a ranching side, both my grandfathers were, or they still are, I mean, they're very respected in their own right. So, you see how they do things, and, from a young age. And so it kind of builds, and you learn from them. And, I've been very fortunate in the business world since I graduated. My first two bosses, I mean, they had two different leadership styles, but the end goal and the expectations were the same, but even though they had two different leadership styles, and, you look back when I left that job about 5 years ago, you look back and, a year after that, and you're like, wow, I learned a lot from those two men. And even today with my current boss, I mean, every day you're learning something new. So I wouldn't say just one person's influenced me. It's been a full, I guess, tribe, you could say. A lot of people have influenced my leadership.
How do you define leadership?
I would say, somebody that leads by example. I mean, really, they don't have to be the loudest person in the room, but they're the first one to stand up and either go do it or, not so much take charge, but when they stand up, they're a true leader. I mean, you know it when you see it, or I think you do. I mean, you can meet somebody for 5 minutes and tell, what type of person they are. So, to me, somebody that just go out and get something done, and just kind of take charge every now and then, and it doesn't always take a lot of words to do it. They just get it done.
Well, it's a big honor being one of the 20 under 40s. Congratulations.
I appreciate it. Thank you.